Whatever happened to the first bfgf you dated? His mom hated me so much, that she literally forced him to leave their home and move in with his dad in NY. Just to get him away from me. It was a very emotional incest type situation. I was too young at the time to know what that was, but once I learned about it, the red flags were flagging hard. He ended up working for my dad's company a few years ago. He was married at the time, still is last I heard, spent the whole time telling my brother how miserable he was, reminisced about our time together. I feel bad for his wife. My first GFX was my childhood friend whom I knew since we were 10. We were engaged at some point. Turned out she was having other flings behind my back, dumped me via phone while I was at an airport boarding check-in. Whenever confronted she was like, "I don't get what friendship is." Well, I don't sleep with folks in the name of friendship, so probably I didn't get it. So that was 11 years ago. Anyway, I miss the good times we had. I miss that time of my life when you were full of hope and dreams. I miss that part of us. Broke up at the end of high school cause she went to college, I went to work and figure my life out. 10 years later we start talking again, only to find out college didn't work for her and now she's trying to figure her life out. Proceeded to make plans to catch up at a bar. I show up and her parents were there, which was cool cause it was nice catching up with them too. She also invited a couple of friends and proceeded to not really talk to any of us and bail about an hour into it. Haven't talked to her since. He left me citing, "I feel like I'm worshipping you more than God," after his mother told him I wasn't Christian enough for him or the family. Side note, his mom was a long sleeve under everything, pantyhose, and floor-length skirt at all hours in her own home, kind of woman. About 4 years later, I see on FB he's married to a pagan witch, and they wore flower crowns during the ceremony. So I really hope he got out from under his mother's thumb and decided for himself what he wants and is happy. He contacted me again 2 years after we broke up and said he still liked me, along with some really long paragraphs full of flirting. A week later he told me he couldn't talk to me anymore cause he had a girlfriend and she didn't approve of him talking to girls he had once liked. Then he proceeded to delete the entire chat, but I have a screenshot of one of those paragraphs. Sometimes I wonder if I should have texted his girlfriend and showed her what her boyfriend had told me the week before. Well, he came out as a trans man after secondary high school and ended up on a list for going to the police and admitting he wanted to molest kids and even had a rape kit. Worst part is that because he and his twin were infamous back in HS for wanting to get attention, I'm not sure if he recognized it as a serious problem or just said it for attention-seeking the kitty diddling, although I must admit to sadly questioning the validity of him being trans due to the attention-seeking. The first girl I actually dated dumped me for incorrectly thinking I was being jealous, later learned she was just wanting to move on. Wouldn't have been any harm in just telling me that instead of lying, but whatever. She ended up dating a guy she worked with at McDonald's who couldn't even keep that job and having a couple of his kids, marrying him and life ever after. Haven't seen her in a while. I know he was way older than us and always thought he was a bit skeevy. The first guy I dated was a very long time ago and we only went out a couple of times. Thank goodness he and his wife in the last few years got power of attorney over his sister who had Parkinson's. They let her lay in a hot room in their trailer with no air conditioning. They slid sandwiches under the door that she could not eat because she couldn't walk. She died of starvation and terrible bed sores. They were convicted of negligent homicide and got 4 years probation. Don't know, don't care. We were on and off for about 7 years. During one of the off times, she got married and didn't bother to tell me. A few months later was Christmas New Year's. She hosted a New Year's party and invited me. I was under the impression that we were back together. She introduced me to her husband, set me up with her friend, and left for work. She was a butterface when we were 20. I can only imagine how hideous she looks at 54. We made out for 3 days straight, practiced different kissing methods, neck bites, ear nibbles, etc. But after a week she told me that she had trauma from being groomed by a police officer in the past. She wanted to go further but also couldn't. After a while she wanted to just be friends since we couldn't go beyond that. Years later she has kids and has her own place, still lives on the reservation but rose up from her traumatic past. She doing good. I texted him last year. He requested my friend a lot to pass his message to me that he wanted to talk to me after 6-7 years. Within the 4/5 conversation he kinda proposed marriage to me lol. I refused him politely, so he tried to remind me of things which I still don't remember now because I was in high, then tried to persuade me with his bank balance. That was so funny. Of course I declined him, blocked him this time. It was complicated. I actually fell in love and maintained relationships with 2 girls at the same time, the first time I was in love. One was my school girlfriend and the other my church girlfriend. The two circles never overlapped, so they didn't find out. I lost touch with both over the years, and obviously things didn't work out with either. Kindergarten was a really busy time for me. To be clear, I was 5-6 years old at the time. Passed away due to cancer. She was in remission when we dated. Came back a few years after we broke up. That one hit me probably the hardest of any death. Even though we weren't together, it still felt like a piece of me was ripped out. Happily married now, I still occasionally think about her, but it's not a sad thought anymore. I learned a lot about relationships with her and honestly probably wouldn't be where I am now. I can't remember my first boyfriend. I mean, we are still friends, but I just can't remember having him as a boyfriend, especially the first. He met my family numerous times and spent time with us and the other way around. For me, he's just never been my boyfriend. I was 16, almost 17 maybe. And we went to the same college. I can't remember that part either. There is also a love letter that my mother kept from him. No clue. Split up when we went to different universities. She married the first guy who asked her because she was broke and alone after school. No contact for years, but a mutual friend got us in touch. Her husband did while they live at the beach. We only communicate via email, but she did admit that while living at the beach was her goal in life, she often wonders what it would be like to wake up on a farm every day next to me. No clue. This started back in the early 2000s, so minimal social media. Once I finally got the hint that we weren't getting back together, story for another time, I just left her alone. Never had an urge to see how she was doing. I heard a few different things from people who randomly offered updates a few years following our breakup: major health issues, failed first marriage, etc., but I didn't really care. She's a prosecutor now after being a forensic scientist. Married for the second time and has an absolutely beautiful daughter from her first marriage. Only thing good that came of it, I think. Still speak on occasion, usually B-day messages, but she did talk me through a very difficult time in my marriage. I will always be grateful for that. Laura, if you happen to read this, thanks for never giving up on me. I wish I knew. I have found literally all my old childhood friends through Facebook, IG, or LinkedIn, or random websites and articles, but I still haven't been able to find a single trace of my first middle school boyfriend. Makes sense, he wouldn't be on social media. But nothing? Not even a creepy Yellow Pages report? His name is fairly commonish, which makes it harder, I suppose. I hope he's doing well. He is now at Transy, very happy for him. I heard he even got bottom surgery. He deserves to be happy, especially with a family like his, which was full of trans and homophobes. Before I moved away, I saw him sometimes in the city with his best friend or partner, having a boba tea. I wish I had the courage to speak to him and catch up, since we didn't had a bad breakup and I still like him. I remember long talks on the phone in 8th grade. We decided to go watch that movie Superstar with Molly Shannon. We held hands the entire movie. I can still feel the sweat clamming us both, too afraid to move, let go. Just that awkward kids and dating. Broke up a month later. Years later she wound up marrying, of all people, the guy that lived across the street from me. Random. I just found her on an NSFW Reddit page with very lewd acts for being committed and searching for multiple partners to join her for the night. She thinks she's anonymous but cross-reference tattoos and necklaces with her Facebook posts on very close dates and post on both about going to same events. Lol, haven't seen this girl in over 16 years and figured it out in 20 minutes. LMFAO. She is doing very good, a creative director in a media house. I'm very proud of her. We were incompatible as couple but remained very good friends. She was from a broken family and where she was headed at that time made me worry as she kept failing school. I have been with her throughout and supported her. I'm very happy to see her doing very good in her work and personal life. Smiley face. He broke up with me on his birthday to let me down easily. Or something. But looking back at that relationship, it was unhealthy for me and I'm happy we broke up. He's very self-centered and sits on a high horse. I don't enjoy listening to him anymore. And since then, I have found a new happy relationship with someone else who actually likes me for me. Been together 2 years. She cheated on me with a bouncer and ended up unhappily married to him. Last I heard, they were okay and had a kid, dog, and home in a small town. I ran into her one night years later, and we chatted for an hour. She admitted she was still obsessed and had recurring sexual dreams about me that were causing her actual bedroom issues till that day. Felt good and bad for her. I haven't talked in months. We tried talking for a few months after the breakup, but eventually drifted apart. I'll admit more us to me than her. We both made mistakes, we both have things to work on. As much as I may complain about things on Reddit, especially her parents, I enjoyed my time with her, and hope she's in a much better position than she was when we broke up. Lol. I dated him after getting divorced but about 3 weeks and he abruptly decided he wanted a break. Oh wait, a break to go back to his toxic ex. Then tried to circle back after I'd been in a very happy now married relationship for about 2 months. Told him to maybe find all new people to date because clearly he wasn't making good decisions. So anyway, he got into drugs, married a tweaker and had 2 children, one died at home just shy of her first birthday under suspicious circumstances. The older one was taken away at that time and he would post occasional visits of what looked like supervised visitation, then those went away. His sister told me they lost custody permanently and the child was adopted out. Depends on how you define first. The first girlfriend I had back in elementary school is living a good life with kids and all that. The first real girlfriend I had once I was old enough to understand what that meant is dead. She was hit by a car while crossing the road one day. We were together when it physically together but dating. Her mental health was really bad and I found myself sacrificing a lot for her, such as food. I wouldn't eat for days so she could. At the same time she'd flirt with her friends and I was insecure about it because while we were talking she was sending adult things to another guy. Yeah, we broke off July 2022 but I still love her with my whole heart.